So if you guys are currently struggling just to acquire customers or close existing leads, then this video is for you. And today we're going to be talking about exactly how you can find those winning marketing strategies, double, triple, and quadruple down on those, and also shed the weight of all those campaigns that you're running that just are not giving you the results that you're looking for. So my question for you is if you had the choice, would you rather have 100 SEO leads or 500 Google ad leads? Well, at first glance, it probably seems pretty obvious. You'd probably want 500 Google ad leads, but the answer is that it really ultimately depends, because not all leads are created equally. Some leads are garbage and some leads are fantastic. So for me, I went from I think a couple months ago, $5,000 to $15,000 in ad spend in Google ads. And you'd think that, okay, if you're spending an extra 3x amount of dollars on Google ads, you're obviously making money, and or a lot more money than what you were making earlier. And the answer is that I literally don't think we made a single dollar more, because we turned on a campaign that got us a lot of people in the door, but they ended up being fake leads, and that resulted in no extra money made, but a lot of money spent. And what I find with a lot of people is they're throwing in the dark, like a dart into the dartboard, trying to land the bullseye shot, but they don't know if the dartboard's on the left, on the right, or in the center. And today we're going to be talking about how you can literally figure this out with pinpoint accuracy every single time. And that comes down to tracking analytics. So we're going to be building out this exact dashboard in today's video. And what this looks like is we are going to be setting up a system where you can track, depending on whatever marketing source it is, Google Ads, SEO, wherever you're getting leads from. We're going to set it up so that you can track all of these leads. In this example, I'm just doing it by keywords in Google Ads. We're tracking every freaking stage of this funnel. So the click-through rate, right? So when somebody types in Google ad and they're like, maybe they type in automation software, it's like, what is the click-through rate? Out of 100 people, what percentage of people actually click on your link? And then of those people that click on your link and they land on your page, right? How many people are actually saying, hey, this is an awesome website, I want to fill out my information, and convert into a lead, right? And then of course that's great. And a lot of people do track that. I'm sure you probably even track that as well. But the thing that most people fall off on is tracking, okay, of those people that convert into a new lead, how many of those people actually jump on a sales call? How many of those sales calls turn into paying customers? And if I was to map that out across multiple different variables, like the service we're offering, like the city we're offering it in, like the language that we're offering, like the source, whether it's Google Ads, SEO, Bark, all of these other externalities that play into the conversion rate that you have from spending money on a platform like Google Ads to a paying customer, what metrics actually, what is your conversion rate across all of these different metrics? And that is what we're going to be building out today. And I promise you, if you build this out, you're going to have way more visibility into your business. And I would be shocked if you are not able to uncover hidden gems that you can double or triple or quadruple down on and cut dead weight that's just bringing you down. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, we're going to dive into it. But before we do, guys, please make sure to subscribe to this channel if you're new, because if you like content just like this, specifically things on like automation and growing your business or just saving time, I'm sure you're going to like my other content as well. So make sure to hit that subscribe button. And by the way, just before we do dive in, this is going to be 100% automated, which means that you don't even have to come in here every single day or week or month and update this. It's just going to be updating in real time on your behalf. It's fully automated. And if you do want the blueprints, they're free down below in the description. With that being said, let's dive into it right now. Okay, so let's dive into this right now. We're going to be using essentially 3 pieces of software. The first one is going to be GoHighLevel. So this is a CRM for sales and marketing automation. You guys don't have to use this. You can use whatever it is that you want to, but you should be using a CRM in this. It's essential if you want to do this properly and get the right data on clients. And then the second piece of data that we're going to be using is Looker Studio. This is a free software from Google. Essentially, this allows you to create your own dashboard. So think about a dashboard like this. Essentially, what this allows you to do is just build that and take data from multiple different sources like Google Ads or Google Sheets or wherever it is that you want to import data in, and create visual graphs just like the one you see in front of us right now. So obviously super cool stuff. And the last thing that we're going to be using is Make.com. Make.com integrates all of these softwares together. It's essentially free to get started, but you'll probably want to move up to like a $10 USD a month plan once you start using it. It's going to be super valuable and save you way too much time that you would look at it and be like, I can't believe that I never knew about this software beforehand. Okay, so with that being said, we're going to start and build this. So the first thing is that you want to be able to track new leads. Actually, specifically, you want to be able to track the whole funnel, of somebody's journey through your business. So I map this out in this flow chart here. So if you think about like Google Ads, you have people coming through mainly 4 stages that you probably want to track. Web clicks into web conversions. So a web click is somebody clicking this link here. And then the next step is that once they click the link and they land on your page, they're probably going to convert, and that's the next step. So you're measuring of the people that landed on your page, how many of those people actually converted into a lead, right? And then of the people that converted into a lead, how many people do you actually get onto a sales call and speak with them? And maybe you're a different business and you're not doing sales calls. Maybe you have a different way of doing this, but whatever that next step is, or the next amount of steps is, you just map this out and track that, right? And then ultimately speaking, you're gonna obviously want somebody to go ahead and pay you, right? And that is when somebody becomes a customer. And that's ultimately what we're tracking here at the very end. Of those people that pay, what's our conversion rate from people that get on a sales call all the way to becoming paying customers? What's the ROI from this whole journey, right? What I really care about is not like the most important thing for me is how much money am I spending on a marketing medium like Google Ads, and how much money am I getting back? And then I want to do that for not only Google Ads, but SEO and for Bark and for social media and for whatever other medium that I'm acquiring a lead generation through. Like, this is not just for Google Ads. You should probably be doing this for every single one of the mediums that you're getting leads through, like SEO or Google Ads and all of that kind of stuff. So ultimately speaking, how do we turn something like a lead form like this, right, into a very rich, diverse chart like this, or table like this, where we have all of these stats, right? Because ultimately speaking, it all starts from a Google form like this, and we have to convert that into something like this. And how this happens is ultimately through the lead form, right? So here, there's a lot of information that we're actually capturing. Now, I'm going to use GoHighLevel for this. This is the sales and marketing CRM that I mentioned earlier in this video, but you guys are free to use whatever it is you want. You can use WordPress, you can use whatever platform it is. You just need to have a form builder. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to build out a form. This is pretty like standardized technology across whatever platform you're using. In this case, I'm just using GoHighLevel because it has all this functionality built in, so I don't have to go between apps and showcase like multiple different apps to you guys. So first things first, we're going to generate a new form here. And this form is essentially more or less, it's just going to mimic your new lead form on your website. It'll be like first name, last name, email, phone, message, all of that kind of stuff, right? I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to get rid of the phone number just to make it easier for myself. And we're almost there, right? We have a form done, but this doesn't capture all of the information that we need. What about the other information that you'd probably want to capture? Because it's not just necessarily the first and last name and email and the phone number, but rather for me, what I want to know is if I'm running a campaign through Google Ads, I want to know, okay, well, what keyword what keyword did they type in to get on to this landing page here? What ad campaign did we run? Because I want to know those two statistics, so which campaigns are doing well, which keywords are doing well, so that I can pinpoint what's working, what's not, cut out what's not, double down on what is. And how we do that is through 2 steps here. We need to pass that information from Google Ads into this form and then send it to this dashboard here, right? So there's a lot of different things here. Google Ads to the form, in through the CRM to this Looker Studio dashboard. So practically speaking, what that looks like, and once again, you can do this with any software, is we need to collect the keyword and we also need to collect the ad campaign name, right? So we're going to add 2 fields here. And the first field is going to be, they're both going to be single line or text fields. And one is going to be the campaign name. And I'm just going to go ahead here and just put it into group additional info for the purposes of this tutorial. That doesn't actually matter. And we just want to add these fields to this form here. So we'll do campaign and sweet. And actually, you know what? Sorry, I'm going to delete this and add it again because I want it to be crystal clear here that we have Google Ads campaign name. And this is going to be in the additional info. And we're going to create one more field here. And this is going to be a single line again. And it's going to be Google Ads keyword. And once again, we'll save that. And we're going to drag this onto the form. And we need to obviously populate this from Google Ads, right? So let's go ahead and add this in. Oops. So Google Ads campaign and Google Ads keyword. And we're just gonna preview this tab or preview this form here, just so I can show you guys what it looks like. So we've built a form just as a generic standard form that you'd find anywhere. Obviously, you don't want to have this showing, right? So we're gonna hide these fields and they're gonna be hidden fields. But we need to somehow collect the Google Ad keyword and the Google Ad campaign name. And if you were to go into your Google Ad account, we need to find a way to pass this information. And when I mean information, I mean like literally the campaign name and the ads keyword to this page. And how we do this is through something called URL parameters. And instead of me just explaining this to you, I actually want to also show you what it means, just because this is going to be a bit more visual and a bit easier for you to understand. So in the URL here, you can pass additional information here that doesn't change the actual web page that you land on, but it interacts with the page and it provides additional context for that page so it understands your query better. So for example, practically what that means is I can push in here somebody's first name. So when they land on this form, their first name is already entered in. And how I do that is through something called URL parameters. And it is denoted by a question mark after the main URL here. And we can put in key value pairs. So for example, a key would be first name and the value would be, well, my name here, right? So the key is first name and the value is Jono, and then it enters in Jono. I could also do Bob here and it would change it to Bob. I could do Chris and it would change it to Chris. So you can always change this no matter what, right? And this is exactly what we're gonna be doing with these ad campaign names and keywords. So we just need to make sure that we find the right key. And usually in your form software, there is going to be something that allows you to enter in like a query key here. So in GoHighLevel, it says the query key that can be used as a URL parameter to populate this field. Most softwares, the form softwares out there, do have this. Unfortunately, if you're using a form software that doesn't have this, then you're going to have to move on to a form software that does have this. For this to work effectively, this is pretty much a requirement, and this is just like baseline functionality for a form in the year 2024. So this is the query key. So we could just copy this, and instead of saying first name here, we could paste that here. And now we change the name Chris to the Google Ads campaign name, right? And maybe we want to do the same thing for Google Ads keyword, right? We're just hard coding it for now, but we're going to go into the Google Ads keyword field here. We're going to hover over the query key. Once again, this is the key that we're providing or assigning a value towards. And we're going to say Google Ads keyword here. And we're going to paste this up here. Now, just keep in mind, you can have multiple key value pairs, right? Key equals value. And you can have as many as you want. So I just put like another 2 here. And we're going to paste this fourth one, which is Google AdWords keyword equals, I'm just going to put 1, 2, 3 for now. And I'm going to delete these key value pairs just so we only have 2. We have 1 for the Google Ads name, and we have 1 for the Google Ads keyword, and they're separated by this question mark. So remember, key value pairs, it started with a question mark. This is the end of the URL, right? And now we're providing additional context. And what we're providing is the information with the Google Ads campaign, which is the value of Chris. And then the key Google Ads keyword, which we're providing the value of 123. Now, obviously, we're not going to pass Chris and 123 into these fields, but this is just how URL parameters work. So what we need to do is we need to actually pass in the real Google Ads keyword and the real Google Ads campaign name. And how we do that is in Google Ads, we need to essentially create something called a final URL suffix. Now, I'm not going to go through the creation of a Google Ads campaign here because that's not the purpose of this tutorial, but I'm just going to show you how you can add in this final URL suffix. So if you go into a campaign here, right, and you go to campaign settings, we're going to have to wait for this to load, which might take a couple seconds here. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to load this one more time because it didn't seem to work. Perfect. So we have the campaign settings here. I'm going to click additional settings. And there is many ways to do this, by the way. This is by no means the only way. But what I like to do is just go to campaign URL options. And we have something called a final URL suffix. And what this final URL suffix does is it more or less does exactly what we just did here. It's adding URL parameters up top. And what I put here is keyword, okay? And I'll include this in the blueprints as well for you guys to download if you want to keep this. But we're just putting keyword equals in curly braces keyword, and then campaign tracking ID, this we're going to change, equals whatever, right? So let's paste this into another tab so we can see it more clearly. This is what we have, right? Keyword equals whatever, and then campaign tracking ID equals the campaign tracking ID that we're going to have. Now, the keyword here is a reserved keyword, which means in Google Ads, no matter whose account you're on, no matter what you're doing, this is always going to automatically insert in the actual keyword. So if I typed in automation agency here, it's going to place automation agency inside this keyword, right? Instead of it just being keyword. So this will be replaced by the keyword. So we can copy this and we can paste this in this form. And let's take a look at the results now, right? So we'll paste it in and you'll see that nothing actually happened because the keys here are not the same keys as these fields. So what we need to do is go back and just essentially update it so that these keys are the same, right? And for the purpose of this, I would just like change this to maybe keyword, and I would change this to, I don't know, campaign tracking ID, or you could change this. It doesn't have to be campaign tracking ID. I could change Google Ads. I could change the Google Ads or this. Oops. Okay, I made a mistake there, but Google Ads campaign name. I could keep this and, for example, change this in Google Ads and it would be the same thing. It doesn't matter what the key is, but we can just go ahead and for the purposes of this, I'm going to change this over here and I would just maybe keep this as keyword for now. And when we save this, right, and we come back in here and let's just put another example, automation agency, it would fill in these fields here. And when we have this final URL suffix, you're going to want the keyword in here. This is going to change depending on the keyword the person searched for. And the campaign tracking ID is going to be associated with the campaign that you created in Google Ads. Now we can safely pass that into the URL parameters up top here. That's going to be passed into the form. And now we can collect this information automatically when somebody fills out this form. Now, the other thing too is we probably want these hidden, right? So we can go ahead and we can hide these fields. And when somebody lands on the page, what's going to happen is, well, they don't see that. So it's hidden, but we're still collecting that information from the URL parameters up top here. So that is how we can pass information onto a form, collect that information in the form, and then essentially in GoHighLevel, what I'm going to do here is if I were to create a contact and I click submit, in my particular form in GoHighLevel or in my CRM, I just created this new contact here. And let me just go ahead and see in the contact section, I just created this new contact, right? And this person now has come in with the additional information of those URL parameters. So it looks like I just need to refresh this page one more time because the information wasn't pulled in yet. It looks like there's just a slow connection between the form and the CRM here. But in GoHighLevel, when you submit a form, it automatically updates the person's information here. So you can see that we have both fields here, which is awesome, right? So we just collected that information. And now what we want to do is we want to create the rest of this document or this dashboard, just like we have in front of us right here. So how we need to go about doing that, and I'm going to explain how to build this out, and then I'm going to go to the next steps, is we need to send the data, okay, I think it's a 3-part process. We need to send the data from our CRM into make.com, which is the third software I talked about here. And then make.com is going to send it into a Google Sheet. And in Google Sheets, we're going to map out, or we're going to reflect the data in Google Sheets in a dashboard like this, okay? So we can now go ahead and just do that. And keep in mind, if you guys are using an external software like a form builder that isn't in GoHighLevel, essentially you're gonna have to collect that information in your form builder and send that data into your CRM, right? In this case, I didn't have to do that because, well, it's all in one, but if you're connecting other things, you'd have to use make.com to connect or send information from that form into your CRM. So the next step here that we're going to do is we're going to set up an automation. Okay. And what we want to do is we want to create an automation so that when somebody fills out this particular form here, we send it into Data Studio through make.com. So in GoHighLevel, what we can do is we can create a trigger here, and this trigger is going to be form submission. And once again, this should be available on any form that you have. Like there should be an ability for you to automate it through like a webhook functionality, something like that. If that doesn't make sense, I have a video. I'll put it in the description on webhooks if you guys want to watch that. But essentially in this case, we have a form which is being submitted. And this form is, oh man, I think it's form 14 here. So we'll go ahead, we'll save that. And yeah, when this form is submitted, it's going to start this workflow here, and we're going to send data via a webhook into make.com. And it's just as simple as that. All we need to do is include a URL for this webhook to send data. This is how GoHighLevel speaks with thousands of other applications through make.com. So we send data to make.com, and then once it's in make.com, then we can essentially do whatever it is that we want to do with it. So in order for us to do that now, we need to come into make.com and create a new scenario. If you guys haven't signed up for make.com yet, I highly recommend using my link down below. I'll send you over my top 10 favorite blueprints that I use every single day in make.com, totally for free. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to log in here. And the first thing is we're going to create a new scenario. Also, guys, if you're new to make.com and you want to learn how this works, I do have like a 50 video series on this, so you can, of course, watch that as well. All we're going to do is create a new scenario, and we're going to have something called another webhook here, right? And it's going to be a custom webhook, which we're essentially receiving data from. So think about it this way, right? We are sending data from GoHighLevel, and we're receiving that data in this webhook right here. So the first thing we want to do is click add, and I'm just going to do like dashboard dash test. I'm going to name it this. And since we just added it, it's given us this URL here. If I just paste this URL in a new tab, this URL is completely unique to this scenario, to my account. And anytime we send data here, it will be received and it'll start this workflow right here, right? So this is how we can collect information. So we're going to copy this link, and in this URL here, we're going to save that information and save it. Publish, save, and we're done. So when this form is submitted, we're going to send that client, that data from this form submission into this webhook here. So let's go ahead and try this out. We'll run it. I think my face was blocking it, but we have this huge run button here. So we're going to test run it. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to submit this form again. So we're going to do Jono jcatliff@gmail.com and click the green button. And now we should receive that data here, which we just did. So we have all of the information that we have on the client. Now, in GoHighLevel, the cool thing is when you submit this form and you start a workflow and send data to this webhook, it doesn't just send the data that you inserted in just that form, but all of the client data that you have on that client in total, right? So any additional fields that I had collected in the past would also be included in this as well. So you can see here in the response, if you come ahead, you go ahead and click the one, like the cloud-like option here, we can see all the data we have on the client. So I have first name, last name, full name, email. We have the Google Ads keyword. And keep in mind, this is not going to be keyword. It's going to be whatever you want. And we have automation agency for the Google Ads campaign name, right? So that's really, really cool. And all we need to do now is we just need to push this data into a Google spreadsheet. So we're going to add a Google Sheet as the one action, and we're going to create a row here. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's create this spreadsheet. So I'm going to go to sheets.google.com. I'm going to create a new spreadsheet here, and we're going to start from scratch. And I'm going to call this, once again, I'm going to call everything, I guess, test dashboard. And what information do we actually want on it? Well, we probably want the date, and we want the event type. The event type could be like new lead. It could be like sales call. It could be contract signed. It could be contract paid. I'm just writing this here just to show you guys what it looks like, but we're going to have to delete this. And then it could be like source. This could be Google Ads. This could be SEO, whatever. And then we're going to want to include things like campaign name, keyword, keyword. Maybe we want city in here as well. What else do we want? I mean, that to me sounds pretty good so far. The only other thing is maybe price. And yeah, I think this is like a good start for things that we can track. Of course, you can track whatever it is that you want to include in here, right? So this is a good start. Now all we have to do is we have to send data into this Google Sheet from this form submission, right? So form submission happens, it triggers this workflow and GoHighLevel, it sends the webhook data into this webhook, and then we're pushing it into this Google Sheet, which is going to be collected here. And then it's going to be displayed on this dashboard here. So let's go ahead and set this up. First thing is we have a connection. If you have multiple Google accounts, you're just going to want to choose the Google account that you have that spreadsheet in. In this case, it's in this account for me. And search method is essentially saying, hey, how do we find this spreadsheet? Like, because we need to locate the exact one. And I just like selecting from all, and it's going to ask for the spreadsheet ID. Now the spreadsheet ID, we can get in the URL up top here. So this URL or the ID of the spreadsheet is everything after the d/ and before the /edit. So we'll just go ahead and we'll copy this whole ID string here, and we're going to paste it right into the spreadsheet ID field, and it's going to ask us for the sheet name, which is essentially the tab that we're on, right? So it's going to ask us for this tab, and once we have that, then we can go ahead and select this tab, and we'll go ahead and enter in all of the information here. So let's start with the date, because this we can do pretty fast here. The date, I'm going into the up top here for the calendar. And this is kind of like functions. It's more advanced stuff in make.com, but we just want to use this variable now. This would like literally be, in my case, Friday, November 22nd, 7:52 p.m. This is the exact date that it's going to put in here. And the event, we're going to hard code something. Hard code just means we're going to actually type it in, so it's the same every time. And that's going to be new lead, because anytime somebody enters here, they just filled out this form, right? So we know for certain that if they filled out this form, they're at the new lead stage. And then lastly, the source here, we could also type in Google Ads up top. and we're probably going to have to change this, and we're going to have a campaign name, right? So if you guys remember, we already chose the campaign name, and we passed it in from the hidden fields in this form. And now we have access to that, so we can place it here. And same thing with this keyword as well. We're gonna place in this keyword. And then if you guys wanted to go ahead and include the city or the price, well, the city, you can of course do that. And we should have a price field here as well. So I'm just gonna go ahead with total price. This is a custom field that I already had in my account and GoHighLevel. So that looks good to me. We're gonna paste or click OK and run once. And now what we can do is we can test this out one more time. And what's gonna happen is we should be able to send data straight from this form. It's gonna go through this automation. It's gonna be received here. Going to be sent to this Google form, and now we can see that it's been completed and entered into this Google Sheet here, right? So that's a couple steps that we had to go through, and it might be a bit complicated, but the good news is we're pretty much done the hard part. All we have to do now is just essentially model this out, but with that being said, it's not going to be super duper hard. This is by far, if you guys have made it this far, you've gone through the majority of the work so far. And just before we actually model this out in Google Sheets or in our data studio here, we just need to set up other routes here as well, because we have data coming from this new lead here, and that's fantastic, right? But there's a lot of other steps that we want to collect here. So we want to collect click-through rate, which we'll get from Google Ads. We want to collect conversion rate, which we'll also get through Google Ads. And then, the conversion rate here is essentially the same as the step that we just created here, where the new lead's coming through. So now that we have this, we'd also need to map out sales call and deposit paid, and then be able to compare them to see, okay, how many people that became new leads, how many of those people jumped on a sales call? Of the people that jumped on the sales call, how many of those people actually paid? Now we're gonna skip over a sales call for this module here, or this video, because once you know how to do new lead and the deposit paid, you should be able to figure out the sales call by itself. And I just wanna compress this video down to the essentials. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and just create one more path here. And that path is going to be for deposits paid. So how we do that is we're going to come back into GoHighLevel, and we're going to essentially have another entry point onto this Google Sheet. And instead of it being a form like we had here, it's going to be when somebody signs and pays an invoice. And once again, you can use GoHighLevel for this, or you can use whatever other software you want. I really like using PandaDoc. This has been so amazing to me. I absolutely love PandaDoc. It's great. You can create contracts and invoices straight through here. But just to keep this nice and simple on one software, I am going to go ahead and I am going to use GoHighLevel. So this is going to be new lead dashboard test, and I'll save this. Okay, perfect. So the next thing is now that we're tracking when new leads come through, we also need to track when sales or when people pay deposits, right? So you could go ahead and in your payment processor, however you are generating money in your business, you'll want to hook that up to this sheet as well. So I could go ahead and I could generate, a invoice here. I could create an invoice template, and I could have people essentially pay me through GoHighLevel, right? So I'm going to go and build out like the simplest invoice you've ever seen in your entire life. So I'm going to press the new button, and we're going to create a new template here. And don't judge my template or my invoice / contract making abilities, because this is going to be super, super quick. So we'll do dashboard test here, and we're just going to make sure that there's, I'm just gonna, actually go ahead and turn this into a contract, and we're gonna pretend like this is an invoice, just because I don't want to actually have to mock a test payment here in front of you guys, because that's gonna take way too much time. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just have two signatures here. This is gonna be for the contact, and that's it. So we'll use this template here, and let's just pretend like this is your document and you're essentially sending this off to somebody and they can pay straight through this document. this is just going to be the easiest example that I have. I'm going to send this over to my client here. I'm going to set the primary contact and I'm going to send this off via some links. So I've just created the contract. I've generated the link here. I'm going to paste in a new tab. And essentially, when somebody goes ahead and they have signed and then they have paid, we want to trigger the next step, which we enter into this Google Sheet, the same data, but this time the event is that they have paid. And then we can cross-reference, well, if this client has paid, and they also came in as a new lead, which they of course would if they got to the paid step, well, we can measure of the clients that paid, what proportion of those clients, or of the clients that came in as new leads, what proportion actually paid. And from there, we can determine the percentage of people that get through the funnel, and then we can map out how much money we're actually making at the end of the day. So back in GoHighLevel, what we're going to do here is we're going to set up one more automation here for when clients end up paying the invoice, paying and signing the contract / invoice. So what we're going to do here is set up one more automation, and you can hopefully set this up in whatever invoice or contract builder you're using. But in this case, I'm just using GoHighLevel, and I'm going to start from scratch here. And this is going to be the contract / invoice completion dashboard test. That's going to be the name. And the trigger here is going to be a document being completed. And this document, let's see here, status is complete. And so essentially only when a document is complete, and the template is the dashboard test that I just created, which is this. So whenever somebody only finishes this document, if you have multiple documents, they're not all going to start this workflow, only this particular templated document. We're going to fire off this workflow. And this workflow is going to do the same thing as the last one, where we just send in a webhook, right? And in this case, we're going to send it actually to the same webhook here, right? We only need one scenario, and we just need to change a couple things. So we're going to copy in this URL, and we're going to paste it here. But if you recall, we hard-coded this event here, which we can't. We need to pass in something different. And because these are two different workflows, I can add just custom data here. And I'm going to type in the event equals, let's just say, paid, right? So now we have one event set up for the contract and invoice, and we have to go back and change the other event so that it's new lead. So I'm going to save this, publish, save, and then we're going to paste this into a new tab, and we're going to go back to the other dashboard test scenario. Dashboard test scenario here. And we're going to change this so that we have custom data here, and this is event equals new lead. So we have two different pieces of custom data. One is paid, one is new lead. Depending on whichever workflow, it's going to enter in as new lead or paid. So we're going to go ahead and save this. And let's go ahead and just try this out. So we'll sign the contract here. Actually, before, we just need to make sure that this is running. And we're going to sign this contract and finish it. And now this particular workflow should run. And it doesn't look like it did. So we're just going to have to figure out what happened here. And that's okay. Sometimes there's some errors that happen along with what we're doing here. But what the error was is that it's not completed, because I think this would be marked as paid. It's signed / accepted. So we'll go ahead and save that, and we can try it again. Unless, okay, it actually did run. So it just was slightly delayed there, but it did end up running. So I'm going to change this back to completed. And there we have it, right? So we have another row coming in here, and you'll see that it's still new lead. And that is because in this Google Sheets module, now we can change the event here to custom data event. And this is going to change now depending on which stage they're at. If they're at the new lead stage, it'll say new lead. If they're at the paid stage, it'll say paid, which is super important because now we can start measuring, okay, who or how many people actually got to which stage, right? So this is where it gets really important because this differentiation can determine what percentage of people get from new lead or conversion rate to sales call, what percentage of people get from sales call to deposit paid, right? So we have now set up our workflow in a way that we have a new lead form coming in. We're collecting data from Google Ads, which includes the keyword and the campaign name. We're passing that through the form here. When this is submitted, we're starting a workflow, and that workflow, when the form is submitted, is sending data from this webhook into this make.com scenario, which is sending data into the Google Sheet. Okay, that sheet is coming out like this. We're printing out all the data, and then what's happening is if that same client then goes ahead and says, you know what, I want to go ahead and pay, then they're going to sign and then they'd pay. And in this example, I just did it as a signature, but it would actually be when they pay. It fires off another scenario, which is this one. So when the document or contract is paid and signed, it would fire off the webhook, which would be received in make.com again, same webhook, and it would send the data into a Google Sheet here. And then it's going to paste that second row, which is now paid. And this is where we can start actually modeling this data in Data Studio, right? To get a result like this. Now, just a couple other things that I want to mention here because I'm going through this pretty fast and I don't want to like perfect this and just spend a whole bunch of time doing things that really don't matter. I just want to actually, make this fast for you guys so you get the point that you can play around and perfect it yourselves. But essentially, you'd obviously want to put in the price here and make sure that there's always a price listed here. And you might want to put in the city as well. And if you wanted to put in the city, how I would personally do it is I'd have another hidden field here and I'd have a form like this for every city that I'm in. So if I'm in 2 cities, I'd have city A in one form, city B in the second form, and have 2 separate landing pages so that I can determine which city that they inquired from. And that's how I do it with my business. It is a bit tedious to set up, but once you do that, then it becomes very easy to track the analytics on city or location, which is great. So that's just one other piece of information that maybe you want to think about. Now, for the rest of this video, I'm not going to be talking too much about make.com or GoHighLevel because I want to focus on how we can actually take that data and enter it into this dashboard here. And also, I'm just going to be playing around and adding additional information in here so that we can get the information that we're looking for so that we can actually showcase what this data looks like if we had more than just one test run in here. So let's go ahead and let's just start a new sheet here. So I'm going to come out to Data Studio. Data Studio here. And we're going to start from the ground up here. I'm going to create a blank report. And this will also be in the description down below too, if you guys do choose that you want to download it. Now, first thing is it's going to ask for data, right, to enter in here. And there's a lot of different sources here, and we're going to be connecting a couple of these. If you're using Google Ads, I would recommend importing Google Ads in. If you're using SEO, I'd probably import your Google Analytics in here. You could also import in tons of different things. The list goes on and on and on. But the main thing that we want to import in here is Google Sheets, because this is where we're dumping the data, and this data will be modeled in this particular software here. Okay, so we're going to choose Google Sheets, and I'm going to choose the test dashboard and the sheet 1. So test dashboard is this sheet that we just created. And then the spreadsheet is sheet 1, which is default. Whenever you create a Google spreadsheet, it'll always be, by default, the tab will be sheet 1. And we're going to click add. Okay, so now we're giving permission to this report to have data from Google Sheets inside this this report here. And by default, it just gave me this table here. If you want to add data, sorry, not add data, but if you want to add a chart, you can come in here and click on this table right here, okay? And we're just gonna move this over to the side and span this out. Now, there's a lot of different ways that you guys can go about doing this. You can track the keywords, you can track the Google ad campaigns, you can track the medium. So you could be like, I want to know Google Ads versus SEO versus Bark. This is kind of, you know, more or less, I do it mostly on, I guess, sales reps here, but I mostly do it on the different sources. So like I like to track, for example, Google Ads versus Wedding Wire versus Bark versus SEO versus other. These are the 5 places that I'd get leads from. Other is just whatever random thing that slips through the cracks. And I want to know, because like, you know, what's actually giving me the best return? What's the best conversion rate from new lead to sale? What's the best conversion rate from sales call to sale, right? All these things matter because, you know, at the end of the day, when you're doing marketing, as you probably already know, it's really much like a funnel where you just have to find the bottleneck in the flow. So at first, when you're starting out a business, your bottleneck will be web clicks. First of all, you need to get ads out here and you need to get people clicking on your website, right? So this is going to be the bottleneck. And then quite quickly, you'll overcome this, you'll get somewhat of a decent return and you'll be like, okay, got it. That's awesome. I have that done, but I now need to create an amazing landing page where people actually want to, you know, convert. So you have a landing page that people are like, hey, when I come here, I am interested in this service and I like what I see and I fill out my information and then I become a new lead. And then once that bottleneck's done, then you're going to have to go on and create a killer sales call script or whatever and be able to convert people into paying customers. And once you do that and you get paying customers, then you're going to go back and think, okay, well, where am I losing the most amount of leads? Where are people falling out of the cycle and how can I tweak and optimize and improve that? And unless you have an analytics system like this built out, well, it's going to be very difficult for you to understand where it is that you're losing your clientele from. So let's go on and let's build this out. So how I want to set this up today is I'm just going to do it based on maybe like, I don't know. I think maybe, yeah, we can just do keyword. I mean, it's essentially a one-to-one substitute for Google ad campaigns or keywords or whatever. And then you can also just do it based on the Google or the different marketing sources like Bark or SEO or Wedding Wire or whatever that you're using. Wedding Wire is just specific to my business. It's probably not going to be specific to yours, unlikely, unless you're in the wedding space. So let's go ahead and do this. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to have there's something called a dimension and there's something called a metric. And I'm not an expert in Looker Studio by any means, so I might screw up a couple things here. But essentially the dimension is what you're comparing everything else to. So for example, in here, I'm comparing everything else to the sales rep. So whoever the sales rep is, I'm looking at how many leads they had, how fast they called people, how many quotes each sales rep came out, how many contracts they signed, how many deposits they paid. And it's all relative to the sales rep. In this thing, it's all, the dimension is the source and all the data is relative to that particular source. So how many leads do we get in Google Ads? How many leads do we get in Wedding Wire? How many leads do we get in Bark? How many leads do we get in SEO? All of that kind of stuff, right? So this dimension here, what I want to do is I want this to be the particular keyword here, right? And you're going to see the keyword is, I guess, just that. It's this keyword right here, right? And obviously that's not going to be the exact keyword. And then we want to have information relating to how well that keyword did in every single other metric. So what we're going to do in this example is we're going to blend two data sources together. So we're going to pull data in from Google Sheets And this Google Sheets is like all the data from when somebody became a lead to a paying customer. And then we're also going to pull in data from Google Ads, where it's all the data from when somebody was a web visitor to becoming a lead. So Google Ads is web visitor to lead, and then the sales data here in this Google Sheet is lead to customer. So that's essentially two different data sources that we're pulling in, and we need to essentially put that into a table. So what we're going to do is we're going to click blend data here. Okay, so that's under data source. We have test dashboard, and then we're going to click blend data, and we're going to join another table, and we have to have two data sources here. And this second data source is going to be Google Ads. So I'm actually going to close out of this, and I'm going to add data up top here, and it's going to be Google Ads. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to add in my particular account here. Okay. And now that we have both of those in here, we can click blend data, and we're going to join table again. And this time it's going to be Google Ads. Okay, sweet. And essentially what we're doing here is we want to find data from both areas, and we want them to we want to pull them into one table so we can see the whole journey from website visitor, so click-through rate, conversion rate, to new lead rate, to sales call rate, to paying customer, because Google Ads isn't going to track your paying customers. It's just going to track your conversions. So how we link these up is specifically through the dimension here. And this dimension is the keyword. So the one thing that's going to be the same or consistent between these two models is the dimension, or is the keyword, right? So we know which keyword did well in Google Ads, or we know the progress of that keyword in Google Ads. We're also passing that keyword in this form, right, in the URL parameter up here. We're passing it in. So now we have this in the CRM, which is then being passed through this automation into this make.com scenario, which is pushed into this sheet here. So we also have that keyword attached to the customer. So we know if that customer became a new lead. We know if that customer became a paying customer, or that lead became a paying customer, right? So we can track the whole stage, and how we connect the two data sources is through that dimension, which is the keyword. So what we're going to do here is we're going to configure join, and I'm just going to do full outer. And once again, I'm not like the best at this, but this just says returns all rows from the left table and the right table, whether they match or not. So we're just essentially saying, hey, no matter what happens, we just want access to all records from both the Google Sheet and also the Google Ads campaign. And we don't want to be like constricting ourselves to only things like keyword that are in both databases. We want to have something where we want to have data like the sales call conversion or the deposit payment, even though that's not part of Google Ads, right? Just because those don't match in both areas, we still want to include that data in. So we're going to choose full outer, and the connection between the two is going to be keyword here, and we're going to have we're going to choose keyword over top here. So I'm just going to back out, and you can see we didn't have access to that. So in Google Ads here, we're going to exit off this dimension. We have to add a new one, and there's just tons of stuff, right? I mean, like there's a lot of stuff here, but we're going to type in keyword, and it's going to be search keyword, I believe. Let me just see. Yeah, so that looks good to me. So the search keyword here is the same as our keyword variable. So we can join with a full outer, which is, once again, what I described, and we're going to merge them based on the keyword and the search keyword and save this data. So now they're both tables are being connected by the same keyword. So for example, if somebody inquired with plumbing, we're going to have plumbing in both the Google Ads account and also this Google Sheet here, right? So that's pretty cool. Then what we want to do is we want to pull in metrics that we actually care about seeing in this report here. So for example, I want to see every part of this stage here, from web clicks to web conversions to sales calls to contract signs. So how we're going to go about doing that is, well, obviously we want to map this out in this table, right, that we're going to build together. So in the metrics, now we're going to add other things. And keep in mind the dimension, if we look back, just to reiterate, the dimension is what we're comparing all else to. So we're comparing it to the source here, or in our case, we're comparing it to the keyword. So we want to see other things related to this. We want to see the click-through rate. We want to see the conversions, right? And we want to see the, I'm just going to take a look here, and I want to see exactly if this is how I set it up. Okay, sweet. So looks like I did a bit of everything here. So we're going to do the click-through rate. We're going to do the conversion rate. So we're going to do conversion rate. This is going to be standard across any Google account. So if you're doing this, you should have the same fields as me. So we're going to start with click-through rate, conversion rate, and impressions as well. Sweet. So we're going to know how many impressions something got. Of those, what was the click-through rate? Of the click-through rate of the people that landed on your website, how many of those people actually turned into new leads, right? And then on the other side of the table here, what we want to know is two things. So we want to know the event, and we want to know the total, or the price, which should be here. So it doesn't, we should have price. I guess it's just because it wasn't filled in. If that makes sense, we shouldn't have city either, which is fair. So we don't have city. So we're gonna just go ahead and when you're importing data in, just make sure that you actually have fields filled in, or else it's not gonna work. So I'm just gonna save this for now. And I'm going to refresh the data up at the top with these three dots and click refresh. I'm going to go back into editing the table by clicking the pencil button here. And hopefully this data should now be here. So it doesn't look like it was added in here. So what I'll do is I'm just going to refresh this data studio, and hopefully in doing that, it should, okay, great. It just actually ended up deleting everything, which was not what I was intending at all, but that's okay. So we have, we still don't have the price. So what I'm going to do is we have to edit the actual source of this. So if I just go into changing the data source back to the sheet here, and I click edit data source up top here, what I want to do is I want to refresh the fields, and we can see that we have two new fields here. We're going to add those fields in, and then now we have access to them. We can see the price down here as well, which is awesome. So we're going to click done. We're going to change this back to the blended source that we created, and we're going to edit this table one more time. And all we're going to do is we're going to add in the price and the total, the price and the event here. Okay, sweet. So we have price and event. And why this matters is because we essentially want to know how much money we're making at every single step. And we also want to know at what step we're making what money. So what amount of money did we quote the person for, and what amount did they pay for that product or that service, right? So that's essentially it. And how we know is, if they paid or whatnot, is through this event here. And we can model sales call or new lead or paid or whatever. So that looks good to me. We have our table. We have all the fields that we want to see, like click-through rate or conversion rate or impression rate, or the event or the price, and we can click save here. Okay, awesome. So now what we have is we have we have a table which essentially has nothing in it. I'm going to choose the dimension here as the actual search keyword. So now it's pulling in data from my particular Google Ads account here, and you can see all of the keywords. And now I want to have data on these keywords. So for example, I want to have impressions of these keywords, which I have here. And you could just delete this and you could add in impressions again. And then I want to know, okay, well, what's the click-through rate of this? What percentage of people that, search for this keyword? So once again, they search for like automation agency. What percentage of those people actually land on my website here, right? And in this case, like, this keyword here, 3.51% of the people out of 100 would actually land on my website page, right? And that's good to know, because maybe you find keywords that are like, holy crap, this one's 17% and this one's 3%. Well, maybe I shouldn't do this one and I should do this one, right? And this is going to give you that insight into how you can start getting better results, because if you just keep modeling this out, then you'll be able to see, okay, what's doing well and what's not doing well, right? Even just by looking at this, I'm able to tell, it's like, holy crap, this one is getting like, and they both have the same amount of impressions, which is low, right? And obviously you're going to want to do this on a way larger sample size than this, but let's say this is 50,000. You could look at it and be like, oh my gosh, this one has like 4 or 5 times the results. So naturally, if I just 5x this one and can that one, I'd be doing way better, right? And this is how you can overcome these roadblocks that you're facing, right? And you're just trying to figure out, where are you losing people along the path? And then once you've analyzed that and you can see it in the data that's coming in real time, then you can make those executive decisions and start making better decisions that lead to better results. The next thing that we want to do here is track conversion rate, okay? And with the conversion rate here, this is when the lead becomes, or the web visitor actually fills out this form and becomes a new lead. Now, I'm not going to go into how to track this in Google Ads. You do need to go into tools, and you need to go into, I believe, where is it? Like maybe data manager, and then go into, creating your own Google tag, right? But I'm not going to go into how to set that up. There's 1,000,001 videos online and blogs on how you can set up a Google tag pretty quickly. But bottom line is a Google tag is a piece of code on your website that tracks when somebody lands on your website, and and then executes a specific conversion. So what a conversion would be is filling out this form. So for example, when they click this submit button and they fill out the form, you could track that as a conversion. An easier conversion would be when they land on the thank you page, which is the page after filling out this form. So this form they submit, they get redirected over to a thank you page. When they land on that thank you page, which they'd only land on if they submitted this form, then that could be a conversion, right? So you could set up a conversion on people that land on the thank you page, and then Google knows, okay, they landed on the home page here. They obviously landed on the thank you page too, because the thank you page would send data back to Google being like, this person landed here, and they only land there if they landed on, or if they filled out this form, right? So that's kind of in a nutshell what a conversion tracking is in Google Ads, but you should definitely 100% set that up so that you can model that here. And once you have that, it's as easy as dragging and dropping that onto this list here, right? So now we have set up impressions, and we have click-through rate, and then we also have conversion rate and all of that kind of stuff. And lastly, what we want to do here is we want to make sure, okay, we're not just getting the click-through rate and the conversion rate and the impressions, but we also want to know, okay, well, how many people actually paid? How much money do we make? What was the cost, and what was the return on investment, right? So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to just essentially copy this formula here, just because it's going to be a bit easier if I just copy it and then explain what the hell's going on. Sweet. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back into this blended data by clicking this edit button here. And now what we want to do is on the Google Sheets side of things here, we need to figure out essentially, how many people that became a new lead actually paid, and how many of them paid. And how we know that is by the proportion of people that paid to the new leads that came through. So maybe in this example, it's a 1-to-1, 100% of the people that paid or that became a new lead paid. But if we had another new lead coming in here, then it would be 50% of the people that became a new lead paid. And then if we had 3 leads in here, but only 1 paid, only 33% would be our conversion rate. And if we had 4 leads in here, now our conversion rate would be 25%. If we had 5 leads in here and only 1 person paid, it would be 20%. But if we had, for example, this person paid as well, and we had 4 leads in here, and 2 people paid, that would mean that our conversion rate is 50. So we're always just dividing the amount of people that paid by the amount of new leads. And this is going to happen in real time in Data Studio. So circling back in here, what we need to do is we need to add a metric in here. And this is going to be add calculated field. My face might be blocking it, but you can scroll down. There's this plus button. I'm just going to show you guys what it looks like on this side. So if we add a metric, it's this add calculated field right here that we're going to click. I want to make sure my face isn't blocking there. So we're going to add that, okay? And we're going to call this new lead. And we're going to do the same thing for paid customer as well. And sorry, I just have to copy this one more time just so that it's just a lot faster here. So let me explain what's going on here. Actually, I guess this is easy enough that I can just do it. We're having a conditional statement, which is an if statement, okay? And we need to check something. We need to check this particular field here. Does this contain new lead? And if it contains new lead, we assign a 1. If it doesn't, we assign a 0. And we're just tallying up like a vote. You can think about like a vote. We're tallying up how many people on this voted for new lead, or how many of these are new lead. And in this case, it should be 4, right? So we're creating a function here. And once again, this is going to be in the blueprints for free here. But we're going to have a if statement, and then we're going to have another formula, which is contains text. And we have 2 variables here. The first is the field, which is event, right? And we're pulling an event automatically from this Google Sheet because we added this sheet into Data Studio. It has all of these headers in here. So as soon as I type this in, because this is already a header that was recognized in Data Studio, it's populated. And we're saying this value needs to be new lead. So as long as this value equals new lead, what we want to do is add a 1 here. And if not, it's a 0. So for example, in practicality, what this means is if the event field here contains new lead, we tally up 1 point. And if it doesn't contain a new lead, then we tally up 0. So we'd go through and we'd be like, okay, how many do we have? We have 1 here, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0. So that would equal 4 in total for this, right? And we're going to add this. And then we're going to do the exact same thing just for the paid step here as well. And the only thing we change here is new lead to paid. And now we have a sum of how many people have paid and how many people have essentially not paid. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this because we have now created our 2 fields here. And the last thing we need to do is just add a dimension here. And this dimension is going to be, it's going to be a field comparing how many people were new leads to how many people actually paid here. So just give me 1 second here to see. Okay, and we're going to add one last calculated field here. So we're going to come into the main dashboard and we're going to add a metric. And we're going to come down to add calculated field down here. And we're going to choose that. And this is going to be percentage paid. And now what we want to do is add one more formula here. And let's explain this together, what's happening. We want to do paid divided by new lead. right? But in order for this to work properly, because it's going to run into an error here, we just need to make sure that we sum all of these together. So we don't want the individual, we don't want the individual paid or the other one. We want to add them all together. So how we add all of these together is we do a sum function here, and then we do a sum function here. So we're summing all of the instances of paid together, and then we're dividing that by all the instances of new lead together. And then we can click apply. And you're going to see, okay, well, it's all null, right? And that is because I just threw in test data. But if I came in here and let's just do this one here, wedding DJ Vancouver. If I just typed in to the keyword, and let's pretend like this is all wedding DJ Vancouver, and that was like what we filled out on the form. And we refresh the data here. You'll see that nothing actually happened. Let's just see. We'll refresh that data one more time. So it didn't get passed in, and that's okay. We just need to figure out essentially why it didn't get passed in. And okay, so that took me way too freaking long to figure out. But essentially, I just made a mistake here, and one thing to be careful of is that I just entered in the wrong date here. So for whatever reason, when this was entered in, it was entered in like, as in for make.com, as in tomorrow, and that date hasn't arrived yet. And that usually wouldn't be a problem, but I also forgot to add a date control, because in Looker Studio, the cool thing is you can control what time horizon you're looking at data on. So if you come into add control up here and you select date range control, you can just say, hey, I only want to select data, say from this month, for example. So we could do like this month and click apply. And for whatever reason, the default was outside of the date range that I had here, which means that when I had the data as like tomorrow, it just didn't show up because it was only calculating time up till essentially right now. And you can see here that that's just a day ahead of when this video was filmed. So when I changed the date back to something normal, and I also added in a date control here, just specifying when we want to pull data from, then it seemed to work fine. And then we can kind of just take a look here and see, okay, we have the impressions, we have, I'm just gonna have to go ahead. It looks like some things were deleted here. We have how many leads paid and percentage paid. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna add in the CTR again, and we're gonna add in the conversion rate, and we're going to add in as well. We just need to make sure that this in fact does look good, where right now it's just saying one lead and one person here. And realistically, so yeah, my bad. These just need to be sum and not count if. So we have the new lead is count, and we have the paid as well as sum, right? And now if we take a look, we should be able to see, okay, so we have 4 new leads that came through, and we can see that that is true because we have 4 instances of leads coming through. And then we have 2 that turned into paying customers, right? Which means that we have a conversion rate from new leads to paying customers of 50%. We can go ahead and change this number to a percentage and click apply here. And then it's going to give us essentially the percentage, which is 50%. Now, we just set this up for one keyword here, but obviously with a system like that, where every single lead you get would be going through a form, and that form would be starting an automation in GoHighLevel to send that data into a webhook, which would push that into this Google Sheet, which would then be modeled in this data studio. If every single lead coming through Google Ads did that, then we'd very easily be able to take a look and see, okay, what are we looking at here? Like how many click-through, what's our click-through rate or conversion rate? How many of those people actually turned into paying customers, right? I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of these two because I just care about the percentages for me. So I'm just gonna filter this back out. So we have a 50% conversion rate. And when you look at this, you're like, huh, what's my, what's the bottleneck that I have? Well, it looks like I have an incredibly high conversion rate of people that land on the website. So maybe it's not the actual landing page because I, just in this hypothetical scenario, I have such a high conversion rate. And new lead, sales calls paid, that's going well because 50% in this hypothetical scenario are converting, but maybe it's the click-through rate that could be improved because this is the lowest metric. So you can kind of analyze every stage. You'd of course want to put in sales call in here as well so that you can determine how well your sales calls are going. You could put in follow-up appointments. You could have multiple stages. Maybe there's an estimate stage. Who knows, right? There's a million and one places or a million and one different business models and ways that you can set this up. But the point is you set up every single milestone and you track where people are dropping off so that you can start understanding where your bottlenecks are and where you need to improve. The last thing that we can add in here is just the cost. I'm interested in seeing, like, generally speaking, how much are we spending on these Google Ads? So I could put in, for example, cost here. And then what I want to put in here is just the total value. So we could do like a metric here, which would be another add calculated field. Just for, if you guys can't see that, it's this add calculated field here. So we're going to do that on this side, and this is going to be like total value. And I'm just going to actually copy this over here just to make sure that I get this correct again. And I'll walk through this function with you guys here. So essentially what we're doing is we're trying to see what is the total price that we're collecting from all the paid people. So we're going to go through and we're going to say, if the person paid, then how much as a total did we make from paying customers? In this case, because these two people paid and they paid $321 plus $123, we should add those together. So how we're going to do this is we're going to do an if statement here. So we're going to do if, and then once again, contains text. So if it contains text, and specifically the column event contains the text paid, then we're going to sum the row price together. So this is going to be price. Otherwise, it's going to be 0. If it lands on new lead, we don't want to add this up because that person never paid. And then we can click apply. And this is going to be a sum. And now what we can do is click save here. And circling back, we should be able to add that as a metric on the side here. So total value. And then if we filter by this, now we can see the total is $444, which if we summed these up, if we did this plus this, then it's 444, right? So that looks good to me. And that's how you could quickly see, okay, how much are we actually spending? And then we could be like, what's the cost of this as well? And then based on this particular keyword, well, we spent $62, we made 444, 50% conversion rate. And now you're starting to get a good picture of all the data, right? And then of course you can do this for search keywords, but you could also do this for all different types of data as well. You could model this after your specific source here. So if you recall in the integration here, we just hard-coded Google Ads in here. But realistically, one more thing that you could add to this form is you could have in here like another hidden field being like Google Ads, and then you add that into your contact when they fill out that form. Alongside the keyword, alongside the Google Ads campaign, you just put in another field where it's like, this is a Google Ads lead. And then you integrate that straight into the source module here. And then you run this, and every time you get an SEO lead, it gets added in here. Every time you get a BARC lead, it gets added in here. Every time you get a cold email lead or a social media lead or a Facebook ads lead or whatever, wherever you're getting these leads from, you can add it straight into your data studio, and you can start tracking. You can be like, okay, well, I know that Google Ads, maybe let's take a look, and I'll tell you what mine is. Like, for example, we have, well, this is over dramatic. It's taking way longer to load. Other, unfortunately, that's unclassified. This could be referrals. It could be repeat customers, whatever, right? So that happens to be high. Then SEO is the second highest. And then Google Ads and Wedding Wire and BARC seem to be pretty on par. These are both sources where you buy leads from, right? But you can start tracking, okay, well, if that's the case, maybe I should invest more money in SEO and I should invest less money in BARC, right? All of those kind of things, you can start drawing really good inferences, and the more data you collect, the better it's going to be, right? So for example, I collect the source and how many leads we're getting, and the quality score, which is a personal metric that we have on the sales call. We just say out of 5, how high is the quality of this lead, and our sales reps will choose a number. And the conversion rate, but you can also track so many other things like the city, or you can track the source once again, or the type of service that you're offering, or the day of the week that somebody inquired, or the time of the day that somebody inquired, or the language they inquired. This is great if you have multiple sales reps, because you probably, if you're not tracking this, you don't know when your leads are coming through. So how do you know when to schedule your sales reps if you don't know when the leads are coming through? If you call somebody in 60 seconds, you increase your conversion rate by 391%. So obviously, having a system like this where you can track when the leads are coming in is going to be highly beneficial to your business. What else do I track? I like to track the total, the average numbers of calls that we get until somebody answers, the call length, typically the biggest determining factor for us as to whether or not somebody closes or not, or the highest proportional metric is the sales call length. So the longer the sales call, the more likely we are to close that deal. I track all different types of things, but this is just really quickly, and not to get too off topic here, but this is how essentially, in a nutshell, you can go about the process of just tracking where your leads are coming from, where the bottlenecks are, how you can improve those bottlenecks, and understand exactly what you're spending, what you're getting back, and being able to really improve and optimize. Because if you don't know this data, you're shooting in the dark. You probably don't have the best idea. Even if you think you're tracking it properly, are you really tracking it properly? Are you tracking everything down to the keywords in Google Ads? Probably not. So you probably don't know. If you're not tracking this, how would you know the keywords, right? How would you know potentially the cities or the services or whatever in relation to the sales calls or the whatever, right? There's just a million and one things. And with a dashboard like this, you can easily track all of that automatically in real time and get all of that data to improve your business operations. So that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Thanks so much if you made it to the end, and hopefully this gives you an understanding of how you can take a system like this, tweak it a bit, implement it to your business, and start getting really good returns, and stop guessing as to where you're spending money, but actually feel confident in where you're spending money so that you can make the best decisions to move your bottom line forward. If you guys like this content, please subscribe down below. Leave any comments if you have any questions, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks, and bye-bye.